Welcome. Today we are diving deep into Chapter 4 of Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now. Now, this chapter really gets to the very heart of why so many of us feel that constant, nagging sense of unease in our lives, but more importantly, it gives us a way out. I mean, does this sound familiar to you? That sort of background static of discontent or maybe boredom? That feeling that your real life, the good part, is always just around the corner, but it never quite gets here? It's something pretty much everyone experiences. And Tolle says it all points back to one single cause. He says this isn't just you being in a bad mood. It's a core delusion that our minds are trapped in. And that delusion is the loss of the present moment. We've completely lost touch with the only time that is ever actually real, which is right now. So here's our game plan for today. We're going to start with the core delusion itself. Then we'll look at the two levels of unconsciousness it creates. We'll uncover the mind's common escape tactics, and then we'll get to the practical stuff, how to actually dissolve unhappiness by tapping into the power of total presence. Okay, first up, the core delusion. Tolle's big idea here is that almost all of our self-made suffering comes from one place, a huge misunderstanding of what time actually is. He calls this specific problem psychological time. It's the mind's compulsive, almost addictive habit of living through memories and looking ahead for what's next. We build our whole identity on our past, our stories, our regrets, and then we look to the future for our salvation. But according to Tolle, both of those are illusions that just keep us stuck. And he makes a super important distinction here. He's not saying all concepts of time are bad. Of course we need clock time. You got to use it for appointments, for planning your day. The real enemy here is psychological time, that heavy mental weight of past regrets and future anxieties. You see the difference? Clock time is a tool that we use. Psychological time is a state that uses us. So when you're constantly living in this state of psychological time, it creates what Tolle calls unconsciousness. And it turns out there are actually two main levels to how this shows up in our lives. The first one, and the one that's most common, is ordinary unconsciousness. This is that background static we were just talking about, that state most people are in most of the time. And it's all born from a subtle but constant resistance to what is. We are so used to this mental noise that we don't even notice it's there. It's only when it stops, in one of those rare moments of true presence, that we suddenly realize, wow, what was all that pressure I was living under? You don't know it's there until it's gone. And then you've got deep unconsciousness. This is when things get really intense. This is acute suffering. It gets triggered when our ego feels attacked, or when a big life challenge activates all our accumulated past pain, what Tolle famously calls the pain body. This is when that low-level hum erupts into intense anger, deep fear, or despair. So if this is the trap, how does our mind keep us locked in? Well, it has some pretty sneaky and very common escape tactics that it uses to avoid the present moment. Now, these tactics might seem totally normal, maybe even harmless things that we all do every day, but each one is actually a powerful way of denying what's happening right here, right now. Let's break them down. First up, complaining. Tolle's take on this is simple. Every time you complain, you are just refusing to accept what is. It always carries this negative energy, and more importantly, it automatically puts you in the role of a victim. And that leads right into the next tactic, resisting your here and your now. That classic feeling that you'd just, rather be somewhere else, anywhere but here. This constant desire for elsewhere is a really powerful form of resistance to your actual life. And this is Tolle's core definition of stress. It's so simple and brilliant. Stress is just being physically here while mentally wanting to be there. He says it's this internal split, this gap between where you are and where you wish you were, that is literally tearing you apart on the inside. What about the past? Do you find yourself dwelling on it, whether it was the good old days or some old wound? Every time you do that, you're reinforcing the ego, that false sense of self that's built entirely on memory. It actually keeps us from finding out who we really are right in this moment. And of course, worry is just the other side of that same coin. It's the mind projecting itself into an imaginary future and creating fear around something that hasn't happened. As Tolle points out, you can always cope with the present moment, but you can never,
ever cope with a mental phantom.
And finally, there's waiting. This is a big one. It can be small-scale waiting, like when you're stuck in a line at the post office. Or it can be large-scale waiting, waiting for a better job, for love to come along, for retirement. But the underlying state of mind is exactly the same. You want the future, and you are actively rejecting your life as it is right now. All right, so we've diagnosed the problem, we've seen the mind's sneaky tactics, so what's the fix? How do we actually break free? This brings us to Toll's really practical solution for dissolving unhappiness.
The entire solution really starts with this one massive insight. All negativity comes from the exact same place. That feeling of unease or stress, that's too much future. Guilt, regret, sadness, that's too much past. The problem is always a denial of the now.
Tolle then asks this really powerful, provocative question. Are you polluting the world or cleaning up the mess? His argument is that our inner negativity isn't just our own private problem. It's a form of psychic pollution. And we are each responsible for our own inner space.
And the process for letting it go is actually pretty simple. First, you just see that the negative pattern serves absolutely no purpose. Then, you realize you don't actually want to suffer anymore. And from there, you understand that you have a choice. You are not your conditioned thoughts and feelings. And from that place of choice, you can simply drop it, just like putting down a heavy bag you no longer need to carry. When you start dropping all that mental baggage, you create space for the antidote to come in. And that brings us to our final and most powerful section, the power of total presence. Now, this is a truly radical idea because, we often think we need to analyze our past, dig through our history to find ourselves. Tolle says the exact opposite is true. You can't think your way out of the past. You can only find your true self by stepping fully into the present moment. This is probably the most important line in the entire chapter. You can't use more time to become free of the problems that were created by psychological time. The only escape is to step out of that dimension completely. The only power that can truly dissolve the past is the power of the now.
And this is the ultimate liberation he's talking about. Freedom isn't some destination you arrive at someday in the future. Presence is the key, which means the only time you can ever truly be free is right now.
So, I want to leave you with a couple of questions to really think about. First, what is one small resentment or grudge that you are holding on to that you could just choose to let go of right now? And second, where in your life are you waiting instead of being present? I genuinely love to hear your thoughts on this, so please share them in the comments below. It's really powerful to see how we can all apply this. I really hope this breakdown helped make these profound ideas a bit clearer. If you found some value in this, it would be amazing if you could like the video and subscribe to Mish Minds for more deep dives just like this one. Thanks so much for joining me.